joining us now, chief strategist for the Bush-Cheney 2004 presidential campaign and senior MSNBC political contributor Matthew Dowd. Also with us is former executive director of the New York State Democratic Party, Basil Smikle. All right, Matthew, my friend who I met at the Trib Fest many years ago, Dick Cheney. Who's convinced to vote for Kamala Harris by Dick Cheney?
Well, I mean, first of all, I want to say the idea that Dick Cheney is endorsing Kamala Harris. I mean, I worked for him. I did his debate prep in 2004. They always looked at me as like the newfound Republican, not conservative enough and all this. Dick Cheney has been involved in conservative Republicanism for 50 years. Worked for Nixon, chief of staff to Ford, was the Secretary of Defense for Herbert Walker Bush, was obviously vice president, was a congressman, conservative congressman from Wyoming. He is as Republican and as conservative as any person in America in this. And so, one, that is, I mean, obviously highly, highly unusual for somebody like that to endorse. What I think it does is it's him, Liz Cheney, others, Adam Kinzinger, others. It basically adds up as a signal. Basically gives a permission structure, not to Republicans, but to former Republicans or independents who might have reluctance to vote for a Democrat. It gives them a permission structure to basically vote, even though they may not like the Vice President Harris, or they may agree with her on certain policies. There's a small group of voters, 3 or 4 or 5%, that it's a signal to them that it's okay if you support the Democrat in this race. And that, as you know, this race could be decided by a few thousand votes spread across 3 or 4 states. Could be significant. I
think 3 or 4 or 5% sounds like it's pretty high. I thought you were going to say 3 or 4 or 5 voters, period. And I say that because Dick Cheney, I mean, listen, a lot of these establishment, former old guard Republicans, a lot of them have already come out and said, no, we don't like Donald Trump. We think that anybody but Donald Trump is good or better. And Dick Cheney also, he has such a spotty record. And there are so many people in this country who absolutely loathe him. I mean, Mark was being cheeky there by saying Democrats love him because Democrats don't like him. The wars in Iraq, what happened throughout the Middle East during that presidency, there is still such a hangover from it. And you can argue it's part of the reason why Donald Trump got elected, that anger. I was in South Carolina. Donald Trump was campaigning against Bush and Cheney in South Carolina in 2015 and 2016, saying they're responsible for the Iraq war. They're responsible for muddying up the Middle East and dragging us into these conflicts overseas. So he used them to get elected, and he did it effectively, clearly. Didn't win the popular vote, but the Electoral College. I don't know.
Well, I think to your point, I think there is an argument that can be made that the move towards isolationism, at least in Donald Trump's rhetoric, is a result of what we've seen. But I go to Matthew's earlier point about reluctance and permission structure. That is, Dick Cheney and Liz Cheney are not talking to Democrats. They're talking to a very small slice of the American electorate. And reluctance is an important word, because if you were going to just sit out this election, maybe they give you their endorsement gives you an opportunity to say, you know, Kamala Harris is not so bad. Let me go out and make this decision. I think it also helps to deflect Donald Trump's attacks against her. Not to say that Dick Cheney and Liz Cheney are going to come out and actively defend Kamala Harris, but what it does do is it gives permission to more Republicans to be able to push back on those attacks, to be able to not give in to those attacks. And that, again, for the small segment of the population that might be inclined to believe them, it's important. Every vote's going to matter.
I wonder if that's going to be more effective, or if this is going to be more effective in getting people to vote for Democrats. Or maybe not. I mean, there is the story right now out there, Matthew and Basil, obviously the gun story, the shooting in Georgia, and how to fix this problem that we have in this country. J.D. Vance spoke about it. Let me play what he said.
Look, I don't like this. I don't like to admit this. I don't like that this is a fact of life. But if you are a psycho and you want to make headlines, you realize that our schools are soft targets. And we have got to bolster security at our schools.
A fact of life is what he calls it, and he says he doesn't like it, but he calls it a fact of life, and talking about hardening schools. That school was hardened. You know, there was an officer there. I talked to Mark Claxton, who does security for a school district in North Carolina. He admitted there's no amount of hardening you can do against a crazy person who has, or, you know, just an undeveloped kid who's not happy and mentally unstable, who has access to a gun. The Democrats, Matt, are seizing on fact of life. Do you think that the gun issue might be more potent, not just among Democrats, but maybe among independents this year, maybe among some moderate Republicans? Because the majority of Americans, cross parties, want to see tighter gun control.
You know, as a gun owner and a hunter myself, is I'm just amazed that the Republicans still are so out of tune on this issue. I mean, and it's not just what J.D. Vance said. It's that every time something like this happens, a Republican says thoughts and prayers. Now is not the time to talk about politics. And they constantly point to every other factor, mental illness, or whether or not the schools got security and all that. And they never actually point at what actually we know will make a difference, which is access to guns and some kind of background checks and some kind of mental health tests or whatever. There are those many things you can do that you can do some things to prevent this. And we know in Georgia, where this took place, a congresswoman, Lucy McBath, was elected in a swing district in Georgia, an African-American woman, purely on this issue. And so I believe this is an issue Democrats can go way affirmative on and make an argument that the Republicans are so out of step on this. And again, it's another part of the freedom argument the vice president's made. But this, to me, is such an issue. The Republicans are so out of step with 70% of the country.
Basil?
As someone who's actually been shot before, at the age of 12 by a 14-year-old who had a gun in front of the school that we went to, that he dropped out of, and have lost so many friends to gun violence, I don't want it to be a fact of life. I don't want it to be just something that I have to deal with, that my family or my neighbors have to deal with. There's a whole generation of school child that has grown up being accustomed to some extent, having hardened schools, having to have drills to be able to get away from individuals that enter the school with a gun. That should not be normal in our society. We're 4% of the population. I think we own maybe at least 60% of the guns in this world. How is that at all normal? And so for J.D. Vance to say this, it is trying to desensitize the American people on something that is so incredibly horrific. And Democrats absolutely should seize on that and continue to push. There's a policy solution to everything that is involved here. We can put more mental health experts and guidance counselors in schools. But if, according to Project 2025, you want to get rid of the Department of Education, how is any of that going to ever happen?
I didn't know you've been shot.
I have.
I'm so happy you're okay.
Thanks.
What happened to that 14-year-old?
Well, he was a drug dealer in the neighborhood. He dropped out of junior high school to sell drugs. I didn't see him for a while, but when I finally did, a few years later, he lost feeling in one of his arms because it had been shot up. And he was in and out of prison for a good chunk of his life.
God, Basil, could have a longer conversation about all of that with you. Thank you for coming on today. Thank you. Matt, thank you as well.